Hey everyone, lesson 3.12 is continuing with lesson 3.11. This time we're writing linear equations when we're given 2 points, right? Last lesson we were given the slope and 1 point, okay? Now, how do we find the equation if we're not given slope at all and we're just given 2 points on the line? Well, let's kind of talk our way through this, right? So we know that if we're given 2 points, then we're gonna have something like x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2, right? So we're given 2 points and we need to determine the equation of the line that would connect these 2 points. So we know that to create an equation, right, we need 2 pieces. 2 pieces. We need m, slope, and we need b, our y-intercept. Okay, so we're gonna do this in 2 steps, just like we did in last lesson, but in this lesson, the first step is a little bit more tricky. Okay, so step 1 would be to determine the slope. Determine m, okay? Do you guys remember the slope formula, right? M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So once you solve for m, then you move on to step 2, right? So create a partial equation. Right? So we're going to write y is equal to sum m times x plus our b. And our b is still unknown. Okay? So what we're going to have to do to solve for b is we're going to have to substitute either of the points. So sub one of the 2 points back into the equation and solve for b. And solve for b. Okay, so step 1, right, we are determining m. Step 2, we're substituting in our point into the partial equation and we're solving for b. Okay, so let's work our way through this. Okay, so here, so our first question is we have these 2 points and we want to know the equation of the line that would join these 2 points. Okay, so step 1, come on. Okay, is my computer frozen? All right, sorry. Okay. Whoop. Just a bit of a delay here going on. Oh gosh. Bear with me, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right. Wants to work now. Okay, sorry. So step 1 is determine slope, right? Determine slope. That's step 1. Okay, so m we know is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's go ahead and substitute in our points. Okay, now remember, if it helps you, you can go ahead and you can write x1, y1, x2, y2. So if it helps you keep the value straight. Okay, I like to do that anyway. So y2, I'm going to select -1. y1 is 7. So -1 minus 7 over x2, which is positive 1, minus x1, which is negative 3. Be careful with your negative signs, okay? You got to be careful. So the top, our numerator becomes negative 8. And this 1 minus negative 3 becomes 1 plus 3, which is 4. And we end up with a slope of negative 2, right? Because we reduce it to its simplest form. Okay, so therefore we know that m, our slope, is going to be negative 2. All right, so now we're going to move on to step 2, where we're going to solve for our b. Okay, so we create our partial equation, right? We have y is equal to negative 2x plus b, right? Where we don't know what b is. So we're going to substitute either one of these points. It doesn't matter, right? Substitute in this point or substitute in this point. You will get the same answer. Believe it or not, you will. You'll get the same answer for B. Okay? I usually just pick the point that has, the simplest numbers, whatever. It really doesn't matter. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to select, this point. I'm going to substitute in that point. So substitute the point 1, negative 1 and solve for b. Okay, so negative 1 is my y value, positive 1 is my x value, and now I'm going to solve for b. Okay, this becomes negative 1, negative 2, and then finally we get b is equal to negative 1 plus 2. B is equal to 1. Okay, so therefore our final equation would be y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. Okay, let's just for fun, just on this first question, I'm going to prove to you guys that it really doesn't matter which number I point in. So let's say instead of subbing in the 0.11, I'm going to write in a different color. Let's say I substituted in the point negative 3, 7. And let's see, because what I told you is that we should get the same b value, right? So let's make sure that that works. Okay, so let's see. I put 7 in as my y value. Negative 2 is still my slope. Negative 3 is my x value plus b. Okay, so then I get 7. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And then I get b. Look at that. I get b is equal to 7 minus 6. B is equal to 1. Okay, so look, it didn't matter which point I put in. I put in this point and I got b is equal to 1. I put in this point and I got b is equal to 1. So that when I say it doesn't matter which point you choose, it truly doesn't matter. Okay, you just pick the point you want to sub in. All right, so let me just erase that because that was just to kind of prove to you guys that it does in fact work. I'm going to erase this, make space for question 2. All right, so let's do this one more time, okay? So we're going to do the 2 steps again exactly as we just did. So step 1, determine slope, right? Determine m. So m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, so put in your numbers carefully. Negative 4 minus negative 7 over x2, 3 minus x1, which is negative 6. Lots of double negative signs, okay? The top becomes negative 4 plus 7. The bottom becomes 3 plus 6. So negative 4 plus 7 is 3, positive 3. 3 plus 6 is 9. Simplify, right? 1 over 3. Okay, so my slope is 1 over 3. So move on to step 2, right? Step 2, solve for b. Determine what our y-intercept is. Okay, so we know we start with our partial equation, right? We don't know b, and we're going to substitute in one of the 2 points. It doesn't matter. I'll substitute in our first point, -6, -7, and solve for b. Okay, so -7 is my y value, 1/3. -6 is my x value, plus b. Okay, that becomes -7 equal to, this simplifies, right? 1/3 times -6 simplifies to -2 plus b. Then we get b is equal to -7 plus 2. B is -5. All right, so therefore, our final equation is y equals 1/3x minus 5. 1/3x minus 5. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so here we have 2 new points. We have 2, -1 and 4, -6. So let's do it again. So step 1, find slope. Find slope. Okay, so m is equal to y2 over y1 over x2 minus x1. This is my x1, my y1, this is my x2, my y2. And now I'm going to carefully put those numbers in. So y2 is -6, y1 is -1, so minus -1. x2 is 4, minus x1 is 2. Right, so we get -6, plus 1 over 2. And then finally, -5 over 2. Okay, we leave it as a fraction. Don't change it into a decimal, please. Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's go to step 2, where we find the find, if I could spell, find the y-intercept. Okay, so again, we start with our partial equation, y equals -5 over 2x plus b. Now we're going to pick one of the points to sub in. I'm going to pick this one because it's just lower numbers. I don't know, maybe the math is easier. So substitute in 2, -1 and use that to solve for b. So -1 is my y value. 2 is my x value. And now I'm going to simplify. Okay, so -1, this cancels with this, right? We just have -5 plus b, and then we get b is equal to -1 plus 5, which gives us 4. And now we can write our final equation. Y is equal to -5 over 2x plus 4. Okay, there we go. Okay, next question. Let's do it again. So 1, find the slope. Okay, start with our slope formula. All right, label your points if you want to. And then start subbing in the points. So y2 is 5, y1 is 6, x2 is 2, x1 is 1. So I get -1 over 1. That's just -1. Okay, so my slope is -1, and I'm ready to go to step 2, which is to find my y-intercept. Okay, so we start with partial equation. Y is equal to negative x plus b. And now we're just going to substitute one of the 2 points. I'll sub in 2 comma 5 and use that to solve for b. Okay, so 5 is equal to negative 2 plus b. So we get b is equal to 5 plus 2. We get 7. Okay, so that gives us our final equation of y is equal to negative x plus 7. Okay, so we'll do the last 2 on this page. And then again, I am going to leave the rest to you guys, where I will give you the final answer, final correct answer, but I want you to try it on your own. This takes practice. Okay, so let's do the last 2 together. So question 5, again, it's always the same steps. It's always the same steps. So it is pretty repetitive. I get it. Find slope. M is equal to y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Okay, now let's substitute in the values. So y2 is negative 5, y1 is 1, x2 is 0, and then x1 is negative 8. Okay, again, if you're not careful with your negative signs, you're going to make mistakes. So this becomes negative 6, and this becomes positive 8. Simplify it. That becomes negative 3 over 4. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready for step 2, where we find our y-intercept. Okay, so we have our partial equation, right? We have negative 3 over 4x plus b. We're going to substitute in one of the points. Oh, I'm going to substitute in this point. Maybe you guys noticed something already. Maybe you don't. Okay, so I'm going to substitute this point in and solve for b. Okay, so if I put in negative 5 for y and I put in 0 for x, well, we know that anything multiplied by 0 is 0. So we get b is just equal to negative 5. And we would have known that without any sort of math if we would have just immediately recognized this as the y-intercept. Right? If we would have immediately recognized what it was, then we could have gone right from this step and jumping to our final equation, right? Which is y is equal to negative 3 over 4 times x minus 5. Right? So that is our final answer. Okay. Question 6, our last one we're going to do together. So step 1, find slope. So m, we know the equation by now, right? You guys should know this by heart almost. And we're going to substitute in our values. So 7 for y2 minus negative 8 for y1. 2 for x2 minus negative 3 for x1 becomes 7 plus 8 over 2 plus 3. So we get 15 over 5 simplifies to 3. Excellent. So step 2, find the y-intercept. Okay, so start with our partial equation. Y is equal to 3x plus b. And we're going to sub in one of the points. I'm going to sub in 2 comma 7 because I like positive numbers better. And solve for B. Okay, so 7 is equal to 3 times 2 plus B. And that gives us B equal to 1. So our final equation is y equals 3x plus 1. Okay, so there you go. That's our final answer. And those are 6 questions. And honestly, each of the questions, we follow the same strategy. So I'm pretty confident that watching me do these examples, should be definitely enough help for you guys to be able to complete these on your own, okay? And then for the assignment this week, we're going to do an assignment that combines both this lesson and lesson 3.11, okay? All right, take care, guys.